We'll wrangle him back.
Where is this thing the Bluetooth? Okay, let's turn off. Wait, did you turn it on for the mic or turn it off? Hey guys, we're super professional. We were just having some tech issues, so while we figure out the last of it, here is Forever Beautiful, sung by Patti LuPone.
These portraits, they trap me in amber. They will not age. They will live forever. My dolly dear, that man's a realist. He made me beautiful, forever beautiful. My eyes like gems. Notice please each tiny lash. Would you believe he painted with his own mustache? Raoul Dufy, a brilliant colorist. He made me beautiful, forever beautiful. A few deft strokes, poppy red and iris blue. In my small way, I do know something of this too. Made women glorious, made women glamorous. Used all my art to halt the march of time. I slowed it down a bit, there is no stopping it. But in a painting, it is always your prime, right? Tamadi Lampica, she was bisexual. You see her love for me, but it's subtextual. My lifelong fight is to keep my figure trim. But now I eat 'cause Giacometti keeps me slim.
7 guest rooms. When was the last time she even had a visitor?
She's old and scared. Wouldn't you be?
Good, go then, you money man. I read your beady eyes. Vain old lady, all alone in bed until she dies. I admit I am a little bit afraid to meet death. But with my brilliant eye for art, when I depart, I'll cheat death. With my Picasso, his early cubist years, I pose no clothes with him. Thank God who knows with him. He says your ears are like elephant in size. I say from you, well, who can tell from ears or eyes? When I was girl of 8, my papa sneered at me. A plainer face he'd never seen before. I said to hell with fate, I'll mold my destiny. Packed my satchel and walked right out the door. From discontented life, without a cent I was. Became a name the world could not ignore. I reinvent my life as every author does. I had nothing, I know nothing. I only know there must be something more. So much more. Look at them all. That light will never dim. If death should come for me, they bar the door on him. The flesh may fade, canvas lives immortally, and there I'll hang from all through all eternity. Who gives a damn? No children visit me. These are my progeny, each an exquisite me. Who says I'm old? I look at my life so far, and I am beautiful, and I feel beautiful, forever beautiful. When you feel beautiful,
Hey again, everybody. That was, again, Patti LuPone, Forever Beautiful, from the musical War Paint. I'm not sure if you're picking up on this. Could anyone in the chat confirm whether or not you can hear this? Because the booth mic says it's not picking up anything.
No, it's picking up your voice, see? Over
Yeah,
there.
I know, but usually it says it here too. Whatever. Slow night, I guess. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Sophia. I got some extra time from Mr. Tech Issues. We didn't get any questions about glamours. They're not a fairly deep subject, so the last song for glamours today is a little bit more interesting. I usually do the slower one for the first one to let people write down their questions. This one is Lady Gaga's Manicure from the album Art Pop. I
Yes!
enjoy.
Yes!
Yes, Han's gonna enjoy.
Some lipstick on, perfume your neck and slip your high heels on. Rinse and curl your hair, loosen your hips and get a dress to wear. I'm the one who's been coming round looking, loving you. You're medicine. I need you the way you make me feel. I'm gonna be manicure, you wanna be manicure. My manicure, she wanna be manicure. How long's enough for her not to feel so insecure? My manicure, she wanna be take care of love. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? I'm addicted to the love that she manicure. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? You serial killer, man, is it manicure? Touch me in the dark, put your hands all over my body parts. Throw me on the bed, squeeze, tease me, please me, that's what I said. 'Cause I'm the freak who's been coming round looking, loving you. You're the medicine. I need to hear the way you make me feel. You wanna be manicure, my manicure, she wanna be manicure. How long's enough for her not to feel so insecure? My manicure, she wanna be take care of love. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? I'm addicted to the love that she manicure. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? You serial killer, man, is it gonna manicure? Manicure. Help me, 'cause I'm addicted to love. Save me, 'cause I'm addicted to love. Manicure. You wanna be manicure, you wanna be manicure. My manicure, she wanna be manicure. How long's enough for her not to feel so insecure? My manicure, she wanna be take manicure. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? I'm addicted to the love that she manicure. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? You serial killer, man, is it manicure?
Alright, that was Manicure by Lady Gaga. I had to fight tooth and nail when I was writing this not to reveal tonight's myth section. With the mention of the Fae and modern television, Glamours delve deep into the next subject, today's myth, which is changelings.
Yes.
A changeling in folklore. Do you know what a changeling is, Han?
I do. I'm kind of familiar with
Yeah.
changelings.
So basically, changelings in folklore are an infant, typically a fairy child, left in place of a kidnapped human baby. It was used to explain confusing childhood ailments or developmental disorders that people didn't understand at the time, like autism, Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, etc. In common belief, the changeling's parents took the human child for a servant, out of malice or because they desired its love, because everyone wants the love of a child, except I love to have it somewhere else.
Yeah, put that child, like,
Yeah.
at least 5 feet
Fairies
away
can
from
take
me.
my baby.
Yeah, same.
On a more humorous note, it was also a Fae retirement technique really old, wrinkly, tired fairies would swap places with the child to spend their final years being totally taken care of by human parents and have boobs in their faces for the next, 3 years until they died.
What a mood.
Yeah, that is my retirement goal. In this case, the way to out the changeling is to make tea from eggshells. That's one way, anyways. It's the least violent. Because the fairy basically says, you're an idiot, you can't make tea out of eggshells, and in doing so, it reveals that it can talk, and it's like a little old person. Yeah, there's lots of eggshell things. There's also throwing them in a fire, or using them as serving cups, all over the place. I don't know why. I guess people thought eggshells were super useless, but also dangerous, because there's the whole thing with witches and eggshells, too.
I was going to say that maybe it represents fertility.
Yeah, or, possibly, actually, no, that's a good one. I was going to say, broken fertility, but I like that. So, on a darker note, one of the possible origins, or partial origins of the changeling myth is parents in pre-industrial Europe using the changeling myth as an excuse to be rid of a particularly hungry baby draining family resources. If you don't think it's really yours, you can't be guilty. Yeah, another, still dark, but not quite so bad, justification for it is missing children. Essentially, fairies, after having been raised by human families, might forget that they were fairies and live as humans, or as humans for the rest of their lives. Or they might remember their fairy families, and leave and go get them, or go live with them, because smartphones and the GPS weren't super present in medieval times.
I wouldn't imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine. Maybe they had rocks or something. It was easy to get lost, but not so easy to explain to younger family members where their older sibling went. Supposedly changelings may have been a human practice as well, where invaded people, because invasions happen all the time, thank you Europe, went into hiding and replaced the invaders' children with their own, much in the same way that certain birds will parasitically lay their eggs in other nests, going back to the eggs again. Yes, so one way to ward off changelings would be to place an open pair of iron scissors near a baby's cradle, because the Fae hate iron and it's very threatening, to frighten the fairies away. But it's not really the most baby-safe practice.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, it's right up there with running with iron scissors. One of my favorite, happier stories about changelings involves a family of trolls and a family of humans. The family of trolls took the troll daughter away from the mother and replaced it, making it a changeling against the mother's will. And they were both raised with kindness, but the human girl was disgusted by her troll groomed to be. She was weak. I almost just said something really bad there, really incriminating about Shrek, but we're not going to go there.
Don't you dare bring him into this.
He was an ogre, so this is a little less relevant. And the troll girl was really bored by her human groom, so the two ran away from their respective homes and passed in the forest, never meeting each other, but that's a sort of an artistic view of that. The human girl is found by her mother, who recognizes her instantly, and she gets a happily ever after that way. The troll girl finds her own mother swearing violently by a broken cart in the woods, and upon proclaiming that this strange woman is the most entertaining and interesting person she's ever met, her mother recognizes her, and both girls live a happy ending with their birth families.
That's...
Yeah, it's wow, you're swearing a lot, you're so cool, you're my mom now. Less happy stories, true stories, historical stories, involve, for one, a woman in Scandinavia who was taken to court for killing her child in an oven in an apparent attempt to punish the changeling into revealing itself.
Did it taste good?
I don't think she ate it. I don't think that was the purpose of that. But a similar story involved a drowning in Wales with the same excuse. Perhaps the most confusing and disheartening of these stories is the case of Bridget Cleary, a fully grown adult woman married in late 1800s Ireland, who was killed and set on fire by her husband. Yeah, he later claimed that he had not killed his wife, he had killed a changeling that had taken her place. The, quote, real Bridget Cleary was never found, and he never looked for her, so... not a happy story.
Yikes.
Yeah, the Igbo peoples of Nigeria have a similar myth to the changeling, which is equally depressing, frankly. It's called A Child Who Comes and Goes. I could not pronounce for the life of me the actual name of it. But it's basically a malicious spirit that finds a woman and forces her to give birth to it multiple times. Sounds kind of like a kink thing, but we're not going there. Give birth to it multiple times, dying soon after birth each time to find and torment her again. There are two methods of getting rid of such a spirit. One is to find the magical artifact that ties it to this world and destroy it. The second is less pleasant in reality. The spirit cannot return if it is deliberately killed. It returns for every pregnancy, and it cannot inhabit two bodies at once. This led to the practice of abandoning or killing twin babies. By sacrificing one human child and one spirit, you guarantee future children who are free from the spirit. Changelings don't really get any brighter or happier from here on out, so I'm going to round this subject up in a second. But first, Han, do you have any more to say on the subject?
Well, I just think it's interesting how much changelings are common with the Scandinavian stories of the Hildefolk, which it's kind of a similar story, except it actually ties into our mystery for tonight.
Don't spoil it. Just hint.
All I'm gonna say is it ties into our mystery tonight, but there are many interpretations in modern day that fit the Hildenfolk, and changelings are definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. There's also a few modern day conspiracy theories that definitely fit into the changelings. Of
course there are.
Lindsay said in the chat that they were a changeling, and Lindsay, I can confirm you are not a changeling. I would have known by now because...
Or a lizard person.
Yeah, or a lizard person.
So we're going to round it up with another song. This one's really on the nose. It is Changeling by Femi C. If you have any questions, ask them while the music is playing.
Still crying after 10. She's paler than the day before. Can she hear us? Does she know we're watching her? We're taking notes. We're asking the hard questions. Is she ours or is she from? I cannot say. I recognize her face. Sure, I didn't look like that or act so strange when I was her age. So quiet, but so much rage. She broke another toy today. Teacher told us no one tries to play with her at recess, but she doesn't even notice. Isn't talking yet, instead she sits outside, drawing symbols in the dirt. Haven't seen her walk in days, but she's always on. We're different when you turn, I think I am a changeling. I was born with long dark hair, the nurse was scared. I didn't cry, but I was teething. I think I am a changeling. I broke open all the eggs 'cause I heard baby birds inside and they were screaming. Oh, so far, I cannot see a family resemblance. Something in her reminds me of a story I heard as a child in the dark. Can't explain the milk we found under her bed or the earthworms in her hair. Can't explain the feeling I've forgotten some important thing somewhere. I think I am a changeling. inside was shaking. She was seething. She was screaming. Oh, changeling, you will find your home someday. Your friends among the fairies. Your family with the fae.
Mother Nature literally was like, Hannah, don't like Homestuck. And I was like, okay, Mother Nature.
So we were talking about some Homestuck tarot cards that got blown away, and I turned on the mic. Anyways, that was Changeling by Femic. That's Phemiec. This next song is a remix of parts from a movie called AI, which is about an android child used to replace a child with a rare disease in a forced coma for a while until they can cure him. And it's David by Pogo. David is the name of the character.
Ooh.
Your floor. Let's not walk this is now. Count the come here, tech. Come here, tech. Yes, I found you. It's 50 years, a long time. Come here, tech. Never should be. We can bring. Go to sleep. No, we can bring. Deal. I can't. We can bring. Go to sleep. No, we can bring. Deal. I can't. Your floor. Let's not walk this is now. Count the come here, tech. Are you her? I found you. It's 50 years, a long time. Come here, tech. Never should be. We can bring. Go to sleep. No, we can bring. Deal. I can't. We can bring. Go to sleep. No, we can bring. Deal. I can't. Stop it! Henry should be.
We're back, and that was a fun part of the song that was totally intentional.
It was. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, it's the squeal that ends all of Pogo's songs. That was, again, David by Pogo. And now, Hannah, it is time for you to do your thing. You're here to discuss the mystery of today, which is...
Alien abduction!
And is there anything in particular you wanted to talk about?
Well, let's start from the beginning. So, around the 1930s, this dude named Bud Hopkins gets born. Great painter, great artist, doctor. During the UFO flap of the 1960s, he starts to become interested in alien abduction phenomenon. And he actually slowly trains and becomes a hypnotist.
He becomes an alien.
He becomes an alien. And that's the end of Triple M, you guys. See you next week. No, but, so... he begins to learn about abduction regression, which is basically hypnotizing people so they can recount their abduction experiences. Now, let's flash forward to 1985, I believe. There's a woman named Lisa Cordile, also known as Lisa Napoleano, because that was her pen name, because she originally didn't want people to know about her experiences. She's walking through the bookstore and sees the cover for Bud Hopkins' book Encounters, which is his second book in his 3-part series about alien abduction, and she just somehow feels really drawn to it. So she picks up the book, reads it, and she gets halfway through chapter 1 when she reads about the case of a woman named Linda, and Linda is recounting about how she first realized she was being abducted when she finds an implant planted next to her nose, and this freaks out Lisa extremely because just the year before, she had actually gone to the doctors, and the doctors were, it was the dermatologist, I believe, and they're like, oh, well, everything seems fine, but you have this strange growth near your nose, but it seems to be scar tissue from surgery. And so she goes, oh, that's weird, I've never had surgery on my face before. Mm-hmm. So, she obviously puts the book down. It's interesting, with abduction cases, the abductees either embrace the idea of aliens and UFOs, or as soon as even a small thought of, oh, this might have happened to me comes into their head, they freak out and they try to push themselves away from the subject as much as possible.
Yeah, it's like a reaction to trauma.
Yeah, it's definitely a reaction to trauma, and that's what happened with Linda. So, this is where shit gets spooky.
It isn't spooky already?
It's gonna get way spookier. So she literally goes from 60 to 0, I guess, from being fascinated by aliens to being like, hell no, I never want to talk about this stuff again. Mm-hmm. Then, flash forward to 1991. UN member, wait, I'm gonna pull it up on my phone.
Do you want me to pronounce it?
Yes, I can't say his name because I'm dumb.
Okay, it is, Javier Perez de Cuellar?
Yes. So, he's driving across the Brooklyn Bridge with his 2 UN bodyguards when they spot a UFO lifting a woman out of her apartment, followed by 3 unidentifiable beings. Now, this is obviously one of the most credible sources for any alien abduction UFO sighting ever.
A UN dude.
Yeah, it's a guy from the UN. That's pretty incredible. And at first he was like, oh, they must have been shooting a set for a sci-fi movie or something. So, of course, he does his own research, finds out that no such thing has been taking place. He reports it to MUFON, and a few months later, Linda, who keeps on waking up in the middle of the night, she's starting to realize that, the symptoms of alien abduction are becoming more apparent to her.
What are those?
Okay, well, one of the most telling signs of alien abduction is encounters with creatures that often manifest themselves or look often like aliens. Seeing owls, for instance, or even deer. Some people believe that aliens are able to transform themselves to look like different creatures in order to comfort humans, so when they're spotted, it's not as creepy. Which is understandable. I mean, humans do the same things when we talk to gorillas in zoos and stuff. So it's not that out of the ordinary that a creature more intelligent than us would try to disguise itself as something non-threatening. But, so she starts seeing owls in her window. Which is weird, because she lives in the middle of Manhattan. There's no owls in Manhattan. Along with the whole surgery scar thing on her nose that she couldn't explain. And then she's like, you know what, I'm going to contact Bud Hopkins. So she does. And Bud, doing his own research, actually connects the sighting over the Brooklyn Bridge to Linda's abduction experiences. And that's when Linda begins to realize that she was the woman who was abducted over the Brooklyn Bridge. And this is when things get really saucy, because
they get hot.
They get spicy.
Okay, no, that's not a good radio sound. No, I will turn you off. Oh god. So things get saucy.
Things get saucy because after spotting this abduction take place, the UN guy and his 2 bodyguards, they of course get approached by the Men in Black. Now, for those who don't know, someone says they like that noise.
Yeah, no, Trish, don't encourage that.
Encourage me, Trish!
Do not. So, Men in Black.
So, Men in Black are also known in the UFO Society as kind of the gatekeepers of, like, coming forward with secrets about UFOs, abduction phenomena, and, of course, they get approached by the Men in Black. They're terrified because these guys threaten their lives if they ever come forward with their experiences, or the fact that they were basically witnesses to one of the most public alien abductions ever recorded in modern history. Which also I'll get into more later about why the Men in Black have such a huge propel on this case. But, so, where was I? So, the bodyguards and the UN general get approached by the Men in Black. They get threatened with their lives. They say, you can't come forward with this. Like, we already know that Bud Hopkins has been talking to Linda about this case and that he's currently compiling it for his next book. Please don't come forward with this. If you do, it might cost you your life. And that's terrifying. So, one of the UN bodyguards, under the pressure of being threatened by the government about coming forward with this, actually snaps and starts stalking Linda because he wants to get to the bottom of this, but at the same time, he doesn't want to get killed by the government.
Yeah.
So, she gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
By the UN bodyguard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and taken to a warehouse in Long Island where she's interrogated for 3 hours, waterboarded. She says, listen, like, I haven't been regressed. I don't know what the hell happened. Leave me alone. Like, fuck off. Like, all that shit. Very scary stuff.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
And it just goes downhill from there. Because more people start coming forward. And that's when, the bodyguards start getting threatened more, because they're like, oh, you came forward with the information, but they didn't. It's just that more people cited it. And to date, there's 23 separate sightings of her actually have been abducted from her apartment. And when you think about that, 23 sightings, that's more than the Allagash incident, which was 3 separate sightings. That's more than the, I forget what it's called, but there's a very famous UFO crash in Canada. That was about 17 sightings. So 23 sightings, that's a lot of people you have to argue against. Yeah. And
so basically, like, a bunch of people saw this woman being abducted, and then one of them was like a UN bodyguard or a UN guy bodyguard who later kidnapped her and then tried to torture information out of her?
Yes. Because I think he was so shaken up by the event. At least this is that he was trying to look for answers in any way possible, and he kind of just snapped. Obviously, she brought him to court. They never actually got charged, but, messy stuff. I think the scariest part about all of this is the fact that it kind of makes you wonder, if nothing happened, then why has it been silent so much?
Yeah.
Because, think about it. Like, there are some common UFO sightings that, like, everybody knows about. Everybody knows about Roswell. Everybody knows about Betty and Barney Hill. Nope.
I don't know about Betty and Barney.
You don't know
I don't know anything about any aliens.
Oh, wow. I have a lot to teach you.
Yes, you do, and we have many episodes to do it.
Ooh, was that an invitation?
I mean, I literally invited you to come to more episodes, like, while we were listening to the music.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But, and Bud Hopkins, later in his life, I think this is around 2002, right before he died, he said this was one of the most polarizing alien abduction cases I've ever studied.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was the first time in, like, all his years of research he was ever approached by the Men in Black. This was the first time he had even more than, like, one person come forward for, like, the same UFO sighting.
Yeah.
Like...
And what was this case called again?
This is known as the Brooklyn Bridge abduction or the Manhattan Transfer abduction. Yeah.
His name's Bud Hopkins. He sounds like a really weird beer man.
He looks like a really weird beer man. He looks like the kind of guy who gets drunk at parties and yells about aliens.
I mean, that's what he's doing in literary form, or did, I guess.
I mean, that's what I'm doing right now, except I'm
sweet.
stone cold sober.
Yeah. I'm just, stone chilly. I'm not chilly, it's really warm in here. I couldn't think of a good joke.
Stone chilly.
Is there anything more you want to talk about on the subject, or shall we move on to your music choices of the day?
Well, I mean, I could talk more about the abduction phenomena in general, if you want me to.
Let's talk about more symptoms of abduction, and then after that, I think move on to the song.
Sounds good. So...
Sighting animals, cute animals with large eyes, like deer and owls and shit.
Yes. So, cute animals with large eyes and shit.
Like me.
You're the most beautiful alien I've ever seen, Ella.
Thank you. Listeners at home, you cannot see the face I am making, but it is gorgeous.
It is. It is. I wish you guys could see this face for yourselves.
It's like gory on acid.
It's like gory on acid!
So, more abduction symptoms.
Waking up in strange positions. Waking up, finding yourself in rooms you did not find yourself falling asleep in. For instance, I was actually talking to a woman who believes that she's been abducted by aliens. She cited at least 5 UFOs separately over the 2 years she lived in Boston. And she reports that at least 2 of the times after she spotted these UFOs, she'd fall asleep in her bed, in her apartment, wake up in her car.
Oh, wow, that's not something you can, like, sleepwalk to either.
It's not. And for clarification, this woman had no history of sleepwalking, no history of any, like, you know, like, possible, like, mental illness that would, like, cause her to, like, maybe, like, I don't know, like...
manifest strange new symptoms that she hadn't
experienced. Yes, exactly. And, we've been in contact for about 2 years now. I've been investigating her case, and... it's really sad to see how much this has changed her in a negative way, because a lot of people don't believe her.
Yeah.
I mean, even I'm kind of skeptical, because this is just a woman that I've had correspondence with. Like, I've never actually met her. But it's, let's see, what are some other symptoms? She's, missing time is a big one.
Oh, yeah, I mean... I just remembered what I do know about aliens and abductions and stuff all comes from the X-Files, and that wasn't an episode.
Yes, missing time. There were times where she would be driving to work, and by the time she got there, she would be 2 hours late. 2 hours would have gone, and she would have still had, like, the same amount of gas from when she left her apartment. Let's see. Strange fluxes in her, not to get kind of, like, you know, like, gory, but, like, strange, like, influxes in her sex life and her sexual reproduction. Like, really, like, messy, weird periods.
She had 5 babies in 3 weeks.
Yes. No, almost, like, for instance, like, this woman was single for over a year, like, no sexual intercourse with anyone, and yet she reports that at one point she experienced what almost felt like a miscarriage.
Oh.
And... you'll actually see themes of, you know, like, problems with infertility or, like, strange menstrual cycles happen to a lot of women who experience abduction phenomena.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
even the symptoms are really unpleasant.
Yeah, the symptoms are very unpleasant. Those are the big ones that I can think of. Obviously, scarring, like, signs of, like, possible, like, medical procedures that you have no reaccounting of having. Like I said earlier, either an extreme aversion or extreme fascination with aliens and UFOs.
Right. Neutral opinions just don't do it.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, very, very interesting stuff. Abduction phenomena is definitely something that I feel is kind of overlooked by paranormal researchers just because there's so many reports of it, but there's so little evidence.
Mm-hmm. So we are going to move on to the song. If you have questions, Han will cover them super fast in between the songs. Sophia, we will get to yours. In the meantime, here is, as per Han's choice, Lemon Demon's Touch Tone Telephone.
Sarcasm scene. I try to call you every day. What can I say when the truth comes out? I've been working on a unified theory. If I make it through tonight, everybody's gotta hear me out. 'Cause I'm the right one on my touch-tone telephone. On my touch-tone telephone. I'm the only one on your AM radio. On your AM radio.
Alright, so that was Lemon Demon's two-touch telephone, or touch-tone telephone. Whoops.
Yeah.
We are going to get to Sophia's question, which was, who are the Men in Black?
Well, there are multiple theories of who the Men in Black are. The most popular one being is that it's a government agency that tries to suppress information about alien abductions and UFOs being released to the public. There's another theory that it's actually the aliens themselves disguised as humans, trying to keep humans from disclosing, UFO sightings and stuff.
Right.
And that also ties into the theory that aliens are working alongside the government.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's up to you what you believe.
So basically the Men in Black show up after alien sightings or abductions to say, hey, don't talk about this.
Yes. But it's strange because there are reports of, Men in Black or, strange figures dressed in black cloaks, going all the way back to before modern UFO phenomena. And it just doesn't tie into abduction phenomena. It ties into Bigfoot. It ties into... There are stories of, like you said before, the changelings, the Hildefolk. Often people would be visited by these strange beings in the Scandinavian... in, parts of Scandinavia and stuff. And then later they would see, these strange men in black cloaks come up to them and be like, don't talk about the Hildefolk.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always been Men in Black.
That's interesting. Covering stuff up.
Yeah.
Alright, so today's final song, also provided by Han, is The Killing Moon by Nouvelle Vague.
Yes.
Here we go.
Under blue moon, I saw you so soon. You'll take
Alright, so super fast. Han says that sometimes they try to hide it in theory because it would mess with people's perception of God. Maybe it's like a bunch of space scientists being like, we can't mess with this environment or whatever. I don't know, I don't remember what they say on Star Trek. They have some primary directive that they break over and over again.
Oh yeah, the primary directive.
Yeah, that one. But that... What?
What?
I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to play my outro soon, and it's going to be a bit bad because I'm playing it off of the computer, which is having some issues, but for the sake of professionalism, I still have to play it. That concludes tonight's episode of Triple M. I know what my show is called. Thanks, Han, for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course, and you will be back sometime in later episodes. Catch me next week at my usual time and place, Mondays 8 p.m. Now, because I took the initiative, at tinyurl.com/triple-m-mmm. Thanks also to Keith Anthony Holden for the use of my theme song, Fooling the Night. If you have a question, subject suggestion, or if you want to be on the show, send me an email at t.3.mmm@gmail.com. That's the letter T, the word 3, MMM, periods between. Good night, everyone, and remember, start each week with a little magic.